When Maya and I decided to postpone our wedding after that last mission, it sent a shockwave through the entire EOD unit. Nobody understood it. From their perspective, Maya was completely in love with me. We had been together for 7 years, and she'd been very public about the fact that she wouldn't marry anyone else. But the rest of the unit didn't know the full story of what happened on that mission. At the bomb disposal site, the person we were after had planted more than a dozen bombs. It was a complicated scene. But during the prep, Maya had given the last bulletproof vest to Evan, the rookie on our team. She had looked right at me and said, "Leo, Evan doesn't have your experience. You're the veteran here, so cut him some slack." I didn't object. I didn't even say a word in response. I just waited until the mission was over, and then quietly submitted my application for an overseas deployment. After we got back from that mission, the way the rest of the EOD unit looked at me got even worse, full of disapproval. It didn't seem to matter that I had successfully completed the mission and disarmed all the bombs. What mattered to them was that the team's new golden boy, Evan, had been injured during the withdrawal. Maya, my fiancée, had bright red eyes from crying. She rushed the rookie straight into the operating room. Then she spun around, came right up to me, and grabbed my shoulders. She demanded viciously, "Why didn't you go save Evan? How could you just stand there and watch him get hurt?" The doubt and anxiety in her eyes hit me like a physical blow, making my head throb. It was like she had forgotten that the entire team's mission was to disarm the bombs and rescue the hostages. As an EOD specialist, the ability to save yourself was the most basic qualification for the job. Our colleagues, who never missed an opportunity for drama, stood by and started adding their own opinions. "He must have been jealous that Evan is the team favorite," one of them said. "That's why he didn't save him on purpose. I never knew you were so petty. We shouldn't go on missions with him anymore. The guy's dangerous." So many people were chiming in, each adding their 2 cents, making it sound as if I was the one to blame for the whole incident. They also seemed to forget that it was because of my outstanding performance on that very mission that their lives had been saved. And yet, here they were, all gathered together to blame me. At that thought, I didn't show any anger or any sense of being wronged. I just slowly brushed the dust off my clothes, looked up at them and said, "Fine. From now on, you all can team up with Evan. I wish you the best of luck on your future missions." When I said that, the room went silent. They didn't want to admit it, but the entire EOD unit had a 100% mission success rate precisely because I was on the team. Only then did Maya seem to realize she had gone too far. She quickly softened her tone, trying to backtrack. "Leo, I was just worried," she said. "Evan's still in the ER, and I was mainly scared something would happen to him. You know he's the youngest on the team, right?" I gave a non-committal reply, just a grunt. A self-mocking thought crossed my mind. He and I were the exact same age, but Maya always acted as if Evan were younger. She even called him Evan affectionately, while she just called me Leo. Ever since the rookie joined the EOD unit, all the special treatment she used to give me had slowly been transferred to him. And yet, we were the couple who had been together for 7 years. We were supposed to get married next week. At this moment, we felt like complete strangers. I pressed my lips together bitterly. A sharp, stabbing pain shot through my injured arm. My eyes swept across the room, and I realized that the entire bomb squad, including my fiancée, was completely unharmed. I was the only one who was hurt, and they were accusing me of leaving someone to die. If they cared so much about Evan, why didn't they save him themselves? The continuous pain in my arm was making my face go pale, and my whole body started to tremble uncontrollably. I weakly pushed Maya away from me and staggered off to find an orthopedic doctor. I wouldn't be surprised if a bone was broken. The woman behind me didn't move. A quick glance from the corner of my eye showed Maya staring blankly in the direction of the ICU. Of course. The apple of her eye, Evan, was still unconscious. How could she possibly notice my injury? I silently turned back, my nose twitching slightly, using all my strength to suppress the pain in my eyes. It would be a disgrace if people mistook me, an elite bomb disposal expert, for showing weakness because of pain. I roughly wiped my face, trying to scrub away the negative emotions. Just then, Maya's voice came from behind me again. "Leo, I'll go with you." For some reason, I felt no joy at her words, just a complicated, heavy feeling that I couldn't quite name. Dr. Miles, a familiar face at the hospital, looked grim. "Leo, if you'd come in any later, you would have lost this arm. I'd like to see how you're going to be a hero then." He turned to Maya, his expression just as sour. "And your boyfriend acts like he has a death wish on every mission. Can't you talk some sense into him?" Remembering her own harsh accusations just moments ago, Maya guiltily avoided his gaze and nodded meekly. I quickly agreed, smiling and saying a few placating words. Dr. Miles looked intimidating, but he was just looking out for me. I always remembered those who were good to me, but I could also tell when a heart had changed. The hospital nurses were busy, so Maya, as if trying to make up for something, volunteered to grab the first aid kit and treat my wounds. I didn't stop her. I just gave a faint nod. Gazing at the woman so close to me, I felt a sense of disorientation. We had started dating in high school. We encouraged each other to apply to the police academy and became the model couple everyone on campus envied. I still remembered how, when my parents died instantly in a car crash, she was the one who held me and comforted me all night. She helped me handle all the funeral arrangements, acting as my future wife. From the day we started dating, Maya had brought me breakfast every single day without fail, always my favorites. Even when classmates teased her for taking care of her future husband, she did it with joy. During every thunderstorm, Maya was always by my side. She knew my parents' death was a wound that would never heal, so she swore an oath before their memorial photos. "As long as I'm here, I will love him for a lifetime and build a warm home with him." I had believed her completely, but I never expected Maya's lifetime to be so short, only 7 years. "Leo, does it hurt?" she asked. "Not as much as it did a minute ago," I replied. Maya froze, then gave an awkward laugh before changing the subject. "With your hand injured like this, you can't drive. I'll take you home later and make you something good to eat." I nodded, the corner of my cold lips twitching into a barely noticeable curve. Just then, the phone in Maya's pocket began to vibrate incessantly. She put down the cotton swab and answered the call. "Maya, Evan's awake, but he won't take his medicine. He's been asking for you ever since he woke up." The colleague's voice on the phone was clear. Even though I didn't want to listen, I heard every word. After hanging up, Maya glanced at me and said apologetically, "I'm just going to go check on him. I'll be right back, okay?" The slight curve on my lips vanished, replaced by my usual stoic expression. I just grunted in response. Maya turned and left without a hint of hesitation. My gaze fell on the half-cleaned wound on my arm. I sat there for a long moment before calling a familiar nurse for help, then stared blankly out the window. I remembered how Maya used to be the most anxious about me getting hurt. During every cross-country training session at the academy, when I'd come back covered in scrapes and bruises, she, also injured, would rush me to the hospital. She wouldn't even look at her own wounds until she confirmed I was okay. She would then stay by my bedside all day, bringing me water and food. Impossible to shoo away. What a far cry from now. The nurse gently cleaned my wounds, finally finishing my entire arm. At the end, she asked apologetically, "Did I hurt you?" I quickly shook my head. The nurse let out a sigh of relief. "It's just, I saw your eyes were red." My eyes were red? I quickly wiped them and felt a cold wetness on my hand. I waited for a long time, but there was no sign of Maya. I said goodbye to Dr. Miles and took a cab home alone. At 10 o'clock p.m., while I was eating instant ramen, a text from Maya came through. "Leo, have you eaten? Evan is in a lot of pain and insists I stay here with him. You go on home. I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow." At almost the exact same moment, a series of photos popped up in the EOD unit's group chat, posted by Evan. I opened them. Every picture was of Maya's specialty dishes, all light and suitable for a patient. Those used to be exclusively for me, but now they were for someone else. My colleagues in the group chat started hyping it up. "Looks like our Maya is cooking for Evan again. A feast fit for a prince. Not just anyone gets this kind of treatment. Seriously, Maya's different with Evan. She's spoiling him rotten." Evan, always the drama queen, saw his teammates' comments and even tagged me with a fake Mr. Innocent post. "Hey Leo, just borrowing Maya for tonight. I'll give her back tomorrow. Don't be mad, okay?" Seeing that I hadn't replied, Maya, worried the new guy would be embarrassed, quickly responded in the group chat. "He won't be. Your boy Leo is a bigger man than that." I ignored the whole soap opera unfolding in the group chat. I just stared at the photos of the delicious food, then looked at the instant ramen in front of me, and suddenly lost my appetite. I sighed after a long moment, running a hand through my hair in frustration. But the oppression in my heart felt like it had been set on fire, burning me with a searing pain. I picked up my phone and opened my chat with Maya. "Why did you have to change? Do you really like Evan that much?" My fingers flew across the screen, but then I deleted the words one by one. After a long pause, I washed up and lay down quietly in bed. The next day, as soon as I got to the station, I saw a bag of breakfast and 3 bright red roses on my desk. Needless to say, it was from Maya. My cold, numb heart warmed up just a little. Although I usually projected a tough, no-nonsense exterior for work, I was actually a romantic at heart. I loved romance, and I loved red roses. All around me, my teammates were looking on with envy. I smiled, peeling an egg while scrolling through the team announcements. Suddenly, a notification popped up on my phone. I opened it. It was a new post on Evan's social feed. In the photo, Evan was holding a huge bouquet of red roses, standing by a hospital room window, smiling and flashing a peace sign. Next to him, a woman's hand was holding a glass of milk to his lips. He had even blatantly captioned it. "A bouquet beats 3 single stems. Your 7 years can't beat my 3 months. Time to step aside." My eyes locked onto the hand. The egg-peeling motion stopped abruptly, my hand frozen in midair. The mole on the wrist, the size of a grain of rice, belonged to Maya. My gaze fell on the 3 red roses beside me, which now seemed blindingly garish. I snatched the roses and the breakfast off my desk and threw them all into the trash can. My teammate in front of me, Ben, asked, stunned, "Why aren't you eating?" I glanced at the trash can. "It looks disgusting," I said flatly. "Lost my appetite." Just then, Maya walked in. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up with a doting smile. "How did you sleep last night?" she asked. I looked up and gave her a quiet, emotionless glance. "Fine." Maya nodded and pulled a pair of tactical gloves from her pocket, handing them to me with a familiar look of concern. "I saw your gloves were worn out yesterday, so I got you a new pair. They're your size. Try them on." As an elite bomb disposal expert, I went through gloves faster than anyone on the team, averaging a pair a week. A teammate had once snidely commented on my high consumption rate, saying I used as many as 3 other people combined. Only Maya knew it was because I spent so much time practicing. But I never explained. Feeling the perfectly sized, comfortable gloves on my hands, I knew they weren't standard issue. Maya had bought them for me with her own money. "You spent your own money again." "It's worth it for you." This familiar exchange was just like old times. The teammate in front, Ben, turned around to tease us. "You two lovebirds are something else, about to get married and still talking sweet like that. It's making me jealous." Maya smiled shyly, but I felt no joy. I couldn't help but wonder if Evan was about to post a picture of the exact same pair of gloves on his social feed, proof that whatever I had, he had too. I stared at my phone, almost masochistically, my face tense. Maya, standing beside me, noticed something was wrong and gently nudged me. "What's wrong? You look awful." I gave a self-deprecating laugh and deflected. "Didn't sleep well. I'll turn in early tonight." Maya shot me a disapproving look. "I'll be checking up on you tonight. If you're not in bed early, I'm knocking on your door." Another round of teasing erupted from the sidelines. Everyone was laughing and shouting, "Maya's so considerate! A true romantic! The pride of the EOD unit!" The room was filled with laughter. In a corner no one could see, I gave a bitter smile. I didn't understand. Maya's heart had clearly changed. So why did she keep playing the part of a devoted lover in front of me? What was the point? As if to confirm my suspicions, after everyone in the office had gone to the training grounds, I stood at Evan's workstation and began to search through it carefully. The next second, I saw a drawer full of neatly stacked gloves, the exact same fabric and color as the ones Maya had given me. And embroidered on the cuff were the words, "Evan." I pulled the gloves from my pocket and unfolded the cuff. 2 words came into view. Leo. In that instant, a flood of memories washed over me. The laughter of sharing a single milk tea in high school, Maya holding me as we wept together over my parents' bodies on a stormy night, the joy of lifting her up and spinning her around in public when I was accepted into the police academy. In just a few minutes, those fragments faded, inch by inch, as if consumed by flames, turning to ash. "Maya, I'm done with you." I didn't confront her. I continued my training and studies as usual, completing my daily tasks. The next day, however, I filled out my own name on the International EOD Mission Application form distributed by the captain. That afternoon, I was called into the captain's office. "Aren't you about to get married? Why are you applying for an overseas deployment? This mission is for a minimum of 3 years in Danak. It's a minefield every 3 steps. Every family there has been affected by landmines. It's a high-risk zone. Do you want to reconsider? Think it over and come back." The captain looked at his most outstanding specialist, his heart heavy. If I left, he wouldn't have any top-tier operators left. "Captain, I've made up my mind. I want to go." The captain sighed internally, but seeing the determination on my face, he couldn't press the issue further and had to concede. "All right, I'll start the paperwork for you. Talk to Maya about this properly. Don't get into a fight," the captain advised me earnestly. I agreed and turned to leave. After leaving the office, I didn't go to discuss anything with Maya. Instead, I buried myself in the computer lab, meticulously researching the country of Danak online. For 3 straight days, I was either in the computer lab or training relentlessly on the field. My unusual behavior even made my teammate Ben suspicious. "Did you and Maya have a fight?" he asked. I shook my head. Ben stared at me dubiously. "Something feels off between you two," he said mysteriously. Before he could finish, a cheer erupted from behind us. It turned out to be the day the team's favorite, Evan, was being discharged from the hospital. Maya and a few colleagues had put in a special request to go pick him up and bring him back to the unit. He looked healthy, with color in his cheeks, and walked with a spring in his step, laughing and joking with his teammates. He seemed to have fully recovered. "I owe my safe return to all of your care. Tonight, dinner at the Starlight Room is on me." "Whoa, the Starlight Room!" The colleagues cheered, their jaws dropping. It was the most exclusive restaurant in all of Chicago. If it weren't for Evan, they might not get a chance to go there for years. At that thought, they looked at Evan with even more enthusiasm. This wasn't the first time Evan had treated the team since he joined. In fact, a large part of why he became the team favorite was his wealthy background and generosity. He had won everyone over with his money in the shortest amount of time. "Leo, you have to come tonight. You've missed every other time, and Maya never has as much fun without you." Evan's smiling remark instantly shifted everyone's attention to me. Even Maya moved a step closer, tugging on my sleeve, urging me to agree. Someone muttered quietly, "What makes Leo good enough for Maya? I think Evan is a much better match for her. A perfect pair." The voice was soft, but just loud enough for everyone present to hear. The scene fell into a sudden silence. Evan, standing in the center of the crowd, had a flicker in his eyes, his smile deepening. And Maya, standing beside him, acted as if she hadn't heard a thing, exchanging glances with Evan. At that moment, I suddenly felt tired. A three-person relationship was more exhausting than training for 3 days and 3 nights straight. With that thought, I nodded. "Okay. Thanks for treating." At 6:00 p.m., the team drove in a convoy to the Starlight Room. As we passed the captain's office, he called out to me, "The paperwork is done. Come by my office tomorrow to sign it." "Okay." Maya, who had been following close behind, came up and asked quizzically, "Sign what?" I looked at her steadily for a moment before replying, "The commendation forms for the last mission." Maya's eyes narrowed, but she didn't ask any more questions. The two of us caught up with the main group and got into a car. Evan, showing off his wealth, had booked the entire private room and ordered every single one of the Starlight Room's signature dishes. As soon as the meal began, he started pressuring me to drink. "Leo, you're the best on our team. I toast to you. I'll be counting on you to look out for me in the future." I kept my head down and said nothing. Evan held his glass, smiling at me. The noisy table gradually quieted down. Ben, sitting next to me, quickly stood up to smooth things over. "Leo can't drink. How about I take this one for him?" Someone scoffed. "Who are you to him? Why should you drink for him?" Ben gave an awkward laugh, and his hand holding the glass lowered. Maya had just returned from a phone call. Seeing the situation, she looked conflicted. After a moment's hesitation, she leaned close to my ear and whispered, "There are so many people here. How about you just take a small sip?" I, who had been unresponsive, finally moved. I slowly turned my head, my dark eyes locking onto Maya. I asked again, "What did you say?" A guilty look flashed across Maya's face. She hesitated, but ultimately didn't dare to press me further, and sheepishly fell silent. No one knew that my parents had been killed on a stormy night, run over by a drunk truck driver. Their bodies were mangled, and blood was everywhere. From that day on, I hated alcohol, and was terrified of thunderstorms. Maya knew all of this. She was the one who had held me, stayed with me, and whispered in my trembling ear, "Leo, don't be afraid. You still have me." But what was she doing now? Helping another man pressure me to drink. In that instant, I felt something inside my chest crash and crumble. My whole body began to tremble. I looked at the silent Maya, then glanced at Evan across the table. I took a deep breath and downed the shot of liquor in one gulp. The silent room erupted with noise as teammates cheered. "Yeah!" But my face was as pale as snow, completely drained of color. Only my eyes seemed to burn with something, a hint of grim determination. The burning in my stomach churned my insides, making it almost impossible to breathe. I rushed to the bathroom and hunched over the toilet, vomiting violently. Heave after heave, tears streamed down my face. At that moment, I suddenly couldn't tell which hurt more, my burning stomach or my broken heart. No one followed me. I knew Maya was still in the private room, standing in front of Evan, smiling and taking drinks for him, just as she had done for me 1,000 times before. But this time, the person she was protecting had changed. After an unknown amount of time, a composed me walked out of the bathroom. Perhaps even the heavens were mourning my lost love, as the clear sky suddenly opened up and began to pour. As the rain fell, a flash of white light split the sky, followed by the roar of distant thunder. It felt like an ice pick plunging deep into my heart, pinning me to the spot, unable to move. The images of my parents' mangled bodies and the blood-soaked ground flooded my mind again. I shivered violently. I shakily pulled out my phone and dialed Maya's number, but a man's voice answered. "Hey, Leo, what's up?" Maya went to the front desk to get some condoms. She said doing it drunk is more exciting. The words, "Maya, I'm scared," caught in my throat, and I swallowed them down with all my might. I didn't listen to another word and hung up the phone. Stumbling, I disappeared into the night. By the time I got home, I was soaked to the bone, looking like I'd been pulled from a river. I sat numbly in the bathtub, the image of Maya urging me to drink replaying in my mind, and the wetness in my eyes grew heavier. I sat there for a long time, then got up, dried myself, got dressed, and turned off my phone. I buried myself under the covers, wrapped tightly in my comforter like a lifeless cocoon. The next morning, when I returned to the EOD unit, I had regained my composure, though my face was deathly pale. Ben asked with concern, "Why do you look so pale? Are you not feeling well?" I shook my head with a bitter smile. The shot of liquor I'd defiantly drunk last night had triggered my chronic stomach problems, and my stomach was churning with pain. "I'm fine. I'm just going to the infirmary to get some medicine." I waved a weak hand and started to head out, but at the doorway I ran into Maya and Evan entering together. Maya frowned slightly, her tone a mix of concern and accusation. "Why couldn't I reach you on your phone last night? I took Evan back to his room and then couldn't find you anywhere. Are you still mad at me?" She put on a good-natured act, but only I, who knew her well, could tell she was actually angry. I simply shook my head. "I went home by myself last night." I started to walk past her, but a sharp pain in my stomach made my palms break out in a cold sweat, and my forehead beaded with it. But Maya seemed not to notice, turning to speak to Evan beside her. "I told you Leo wouldn't mind. You worry too much." The doting tone in her voice made my heart tremble. I clenched my jaw, and just as I was about to leave, I was startled by something furry on the ground. I instinctively took a few steps back. It was a cat. Seeing my frightened reaction, Evan quickly scooped up the cat. "Leo, my bad about last night. I shouldn't have made you drink. Maya said you like pets, so I brought my cat over to apologize. Want to hold him?" But I, terrified, retreated even further. Others might not know, but Maya should have known. I was allergic to cats. The pets I liked were mutts, not cats. My face was pale. I clutched my stomach with one hand and shook my head, forcing a smile. "Thanks, but I'm allergic to cats. I'll pass." At my words, Evan's face fell. He pouted and said, "Leo, so you really don't like me? You won't drink my toast? You won't hold my cat? If you hate me, you can just say it. You don't have to go to the trouble of making up so many excuses." As he spoke, he glanced at Maya, his eyes welling up with tears. The next second, Maya's coaxing voice predictably sounded in my ear. "Why don't you just hold him for a second? Evan just wants to make it up to you." The surrounding teammates chimed in with snide remarks. Well, well, the elite is different, isn't he? Always pulling rank in the unit, disrupting team unity. The guy is practically begging you, why are you still acting so high and mighty? My brow furrowed tightly, my knuckles turning white. Just then, Ben pushed through the crowd and hurried to support the pale me. "Hold what, cat? Can't you see his stomach is killing him?" he retorted. With that, he started to lead me toward the door. Seeing this, Maya rushed after us, asking repeatedly, "Leo, why didn't you tell me your stomach hurt? Why are you so stubborn? When are you going to change this attitude?" I wanted to say something, but when I looked up and saw the faint hint of resentment in her eyes, I silently closed my mouth. But Evan spoke up from behind. "Maya, the kitten needs you to feed him. He only recognizes you." He didn't finish the sentence, but it felt like he had said everything. I said with difficulty, "Maya, you should go. Evan's kitten is waiting for you." Maya looked torn. She glanced at Evan, then back at me, and explained, "I'll be right back. Wait for me." With that, she turned and ran toward Evan. Only then did I understand that in Maya's heart, I couldn't compare to Evan, nor could I compare to Evan's cat. Those years of love. I was probably the only one who still foolishly remembered them. I sighed inwardly and turned to Ben, saying softly, "Let's go." Sensing my sadness, the usually chatty young man fell unusually silent. After the unit doctor examined the wound on my arm and prescribed a few painkillers, he finally spoke with a smile. "The wound on your arm is starting to scab over. It's nothing serious. I heard you distinguished yourself again on the last mission. Congratulations," the doctor said cheerfully. I nodded my thanks. After a few more words, we left the infirmary. Ben's face was alight with excitement, and he chattered on, "You're the only one on our team with a commendation medal now. That's amazing. Maya is going to be ecstatic. A wedding and a medal, talk about a double whammy of good news, right?" Ben spoke animatedly, his face beaming with genuine joy. But the man opposite him, me, showed no emotion, remaining unnervingly calm. I had never cared about medals. Every mission was a gamble with death. Survive one day, live one day. As long as I could complete the mission and return to the unit alive, that was my greatest wish. Thinking of this, I looked up at the bright sun in the blue sky, a smile appearing on my face. I turned and thanked Ben again. When we returned to the office with the medicine, Maya walked over with a concerned look, eagerly handing me a heating pad. "Put this on your stomach. It should make you feel a bit better." My gaze fixed on the heating pad, but I didn't move. I didn't understand. I truly didn't understand what Maya was thinking. She had clearly fallen for Evan, yet she continued to act so devoted to me. Wasn't she tired of splitting her heart in two? but I didn't have time to ask. The next second, the meeting bell rang, summoning everyone. I discreetly pushed the heating pad aside and followed the others into the conference room. Once everyone was assembled, the captain walked in, full of energy. He announced loudly, "For his outstanding performance on the last mission, Comrade Leo is hereby awarded the Commendation Medal." "I object." As soon as the words were out, all eyes in the room turned to Maya. The captain's eyes widened, his face expressionless, but he gestured with his eyes for her to continue. Maya couldn't bring herself to look at me. Her burning gaze was fixed on Evan in the front row, and her tone was firm. Evan was seriously injured during this mission, and should have a share in the credit. The honor can't go to Leo alone. The team members won't accept it. The air conditioning was on in the conference room, but the atmosphere felt heavy and oppressive. The captain let out an abrupt laugh and walked slowly toward Maya. "Do I need your acceptance?" he said coldly. "This is a decision from high command. It's an announcement, not a request for your opinion. You won't accept it. What good does that do? If getting injured was enough for a commendation, everyone in this unit would have a Distinguished Service Cross by now." The captain's powerful voice spoke word by word, and Maya's face gradually turned pale. I could even see her tremble slightly. I could feel Maya's gaze on me from the corner of her eye, pleading for me to help her out. But this time, I had no intention of speaking up. The captain's voice continued. "Maya, aren't you Leo's fiancée? Why are you helping an outsider fight for credit?" The room was silent, and Maya's face flushed crimson. After a long moment, she replied righteously, "We don't discuss personal matters during work hours. The entire team." Maya's words were cut off by the captain's sharp interruption. "This matter is settled. I don't want to hear any more discussion about it." After the meeting was dismissed, Maya, with her head down and ignoring the varied expressions of the others, cornered me. "I didn't mean anything else just now. I just felt that it's not easy for a young guy like Evan, so I wanted to speak up for him." She watched me as she spoke, and after a few seconds, she couldn't hold back a quiet complaint. "The captain embarrassed me in front of everyone just now. Why didn't you help me? I feel like you've been getting colder and colder towards me lately." Hearing this, I almost laughed out of anger. The fire that had been simmering inside me for so long finally erupted. My eyes were sharp with a chilling insight that seemed to pierce right through the familiar, yet strange woman before me. "I don't get it either. Why did you help him and not me?" Maya froze, her lips pressed into a thin line, but my questioning continued. "Did he disarm the bomb that day?" Maya half shook her head. "Who did?" "You did." After a long pause, Maya's voice was as faint as a mosquito's buzz. "Then why did you help him steal the credit?" I emphasized the last two words, and the sound made Maya's entire body jolt. If she had been asking for credit for the whole team today, I could have understood. But I couldn't tolerate Maya going against her conscience, skipping over all the other teammates to fight for credit for Evan. He didn't deserve it. I looked up, a half smile on my face. "Maya," I said, "let's break up." The woman froze, her face a mask of disbelief. It took her a long moment to process my words. She frowned. "Leo, we're getting married next week. What kind of joke is this?" She paused, as if making a decision, then took a breath. "I know you're angry about what just happened. I apologize. It won't happen again, okay?" I sighed inwardly. I didn't know what to say. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. It was useless. She was playing dumb and refusing to admit anything. Besides, I was leaving anyway. Let her be, as long as she was happy. With that thought, I nodded with a wooden expression. Maya, beside me, quietly breathed a sigh of relief. She grabbed my hand, acting as if nothing had happened. "My dad is visiting today. Come over to my place for dinner tonight." My steps faltered, a sense of resistance rising within me. Although Maya and I were at the stage of planning our wedding, her father had never liked me. He was a well-educated teacher, but in private, his words were always barbed, constantly trying to get Maya to break up with me. For years, I had tried everything to smooth things over with him, but it was no use. Eventually, I gave up. I wasn't money. I couldn't make everyone like me. I curled my lip, thinking with self-mockery that now Mr. Vance's wish was about to come true. After work, Maya drove me to her home, but the person who opened the door was, surprisingly, Evan. He greeted us with a wide smile. "You're back. Uncle made a ton of delicious food tonight." My questioning gaze turned to Maya. The woman awkwardly scratched her head and explained in a low voice, "Evan helped me pick up my dad today, so he's staying for dinner." I didn't say anything. I changed my shoes and went inside. Seeing that I didn't seem angry, Maya didn't pay it much mind and went into the kitchen to help. Soon, the four of us were sitting at the table. Maya's father was as cool and distant as ever, but whenever he turned to Evan, that coolness instantly melted into fatherly affection. He warmly urged him to eat more. While talking, he kept putting food on Evan's plate and even kept giving Maya looks, signaling her to take better care of him. When he turned to look at me, the smile vanished from his face. "A man should prioritize his family after marriage. A career is important, but you also need to take care of my daughter. If my daughter is wronged in any way, then there's no need for this marriage." The moment he said this, the atmosphere at the dinner table turned cold. Maya quickly called out, "Dad, let's eat first. I'm starving." Despite his dissatisfaction with me, hearing that his daughter was hungry, Mr. Vance couldn't say any more and just mumbled, "Eat, eat." But I, sitting beside them, had no appetite at all. The table was filled with spicy dishes. The sight of the oily red chili peppers made my already fragile stomach ache faintly. Mr. Vance kept saying, "Evan, eat up. These are all your favorite dishes." And they were. Evan's bowl was piled high with food, while mine was filled only with plain white rice. The two of them looked like a father and son, while I felt like a stranger who had forced his way in. Evan's eyes shone with a triumphant look, like a victorious rooster. After fussing over Evan, Maya finally seemed to notice me. She put a few bites of vegetables in my bowl and told me to eat up. I smiled bitterly to myself. At least she still remembered I didn't eat spicy food. After an agonizing hour, I stood up to leave. "Mr. Vance, thank you for your hospitality. I'm leaving." But Maya's father acted as if he didn't see me, continuing to talk to Evan with his head turned. Maya awkwardly got up to see me out, trying to smooth things over. "My dad just likes younger guys. They hit it off." She noticed I was unusually quiet tonight and felt a vague unease, adding, "I'll drive you back." As soon as she said it, her father's voice came from inside. "You drive Evan. He lives farther away." I, who hadn't said a word, now looked up. I blinked, a careless smile on my face. "You take him. I'll get back on my own." With that, I turned and walked away without looking back, leaving a conflicted Maya standing there stunned. She wasn't sure if it was her imagination, but she felt that I was both very close and very far away. A few seconds later, she shook her head with a scoff. We were getting married in 3 days. What was she thinking? But what Maya didn't know was that I was not going to marry her. I had just confirmed my departure date with the captain. It was in 3 days. The captain sighed one last time, emphasizing again, "If this is about Maya, you really don't have to go overseas. I can transfer you to another unit so you won't feel awkward." He truly couldn't bear to lose this key officer, and was still trying to persuade me at the last minute. I pressed my lips together, a slight curve appearing. "Thank you, Captain. Wait for me. I'll be back." Seeing that persuasion was useless, the captain didn't insist. We said our final goodbyes and hung up. Just then, a text from Maya came through. "We're going to the wedding planners tomorrow afternoon to try on our formal wear. I've already requested the day off." She then sent a rapid succession of photos showing seating arrangements, invitation designs, and other small details. In that moment, I almost couldn't stop myself from telling her. I wasn't going through with the wedding. But reason told me to wait, just a little longer. The next afternoon, when I arrived at the wedding planning company, Maya was already there. Strangely, when she saw me standing at the door, she had a hesitant look on her face. "What's wrong?" I asked. Maya forced a smile and replied, "Nothing." But the next moment, the dressing room door was pulled open from the inside. A groom was already sitting there. I smiled, about to nod in greeting. But when I saw the groom's face as he turned around, the smile froze on my face. The man was none other than Evan. He seemed completely oblivious, smiling and greeting me. "Leo, you're just in time. I just finished trying on the tux for you. What do you think? Does it look good?" Seeing my silence, he turned and asked Maya with a grin, "Maya, do I look good in this? Do I look like a groom?" Maya didn't dare to look at my face and nodded guiltily, but Evan didn't seem satisfied with her answer. He changed his tone to one of concern. "Leo, this tux looks good on me, but I don't know if it will look good on you. After all, everyone on the team agrees I'm the most handsome, not like you, all rough around the edges." He paused, as if realizing he'd misspoken, and added, "That's not what I said. That's what Mr. Vance said." I remained calm, as still as a mountain. The stylist was frightened by the bizarre atmosphere, standing frozen to the side, afraid to speak. It was Maya who grabbed my hand and explained repeatedly, "My dad saw he was off today, so he had him come along to help give his opinion." I jerked my hand away from Maya's, a cold smile forming on my face. "My wedding? My tux? Why do I need an outsider's opinion? Since you and your dad want his opinion so badly, let him be the groom. It looks like he can't wait anyway." After saying this, I gave the two of them a light, dismissive glance and turned to leave. I paid no attention to the woman's desperate shouts behind me. As soon as I got in my car, Ben's call came through. The moment I answered, I heard his panicked voice. "Leo, emergency mission! Get back to the unit, now!" Without a second thought, I sped back to the unit, changed into my gear in seconds, and joined the main team. This mission was extremely difficult. A terrorist had planted heavy explosives under a bridge, intending to destroy it and cause mass casualties. All the other explosives had been found and disarmed, but the last few were a new type of bomb, CT-4, and everyone was at a loss. The team pinned their hopes on me. Dressed in my bomb suit, I worked on the explosives with abnormal calm. But the detonator was connected to 2 wires, and I wasn't sure which one to cut. As the seconds ticked by, I shouted and cut the yellow wire. You could have heard a pin drop. There was no sound. Just as everyone was cheering, Evan shoved me aside and ran toward Maya up ahead. But he didn't see that there was still a loose shell on the ground. The next second, there was a loud bang. Maya didn't hesitate for a second. She lunged toward Evan, shielding him with her body. At that moment, she seemed to have forgotten that I was much closer to the explosive. In a flash, I saw the woman's action. But strangely, I felt no pain, no sadness. My heart felt like it had hurt enough. There was only numbness. As if I had just confirmed something I already knew, I felt a sense of release, and made one final decision. The last time, when Maya handed the bomb suit to Evan in front of me, I had thought that in the near future, the person she would be willing to protect with her life might no longer be me. But when I first joined the bomb squad, she was the one who would have shielded me from an explosion with her own body. So, I wasn't her one and only, just one of many. I closed my eyes, and a tear streamed down my face. As a series of bangs sounded in my ears, everything went dark. When I woke up, I was lying in a bed. I felt weak all over, with a throbbing pain in my abdomen. The doctor told me there were no major injuries, but the impact had caused irreversible damage to my body. In that moment, I was completely numb, like a lifeless statue. Only the large tears rolling from the corners of my eyes revealed a rare vulnerability for a man. I had originally decided to cancel this plan before leaving. Perhaps this was heaven's best arrangement. I collected myself and spoke, my eyes red. "I need you to do me one last favor." After the doctor left, I covered my face with my hands and wept silently. Just then, there was a noise at the door. I quickly wiped away my tears and pretended I had just woken up. Ben pushed the door open, and seeing me awake, his eyes turned red with joy. "Leo, why are your eyes so swollen? Were you crying too?" I shook my head and said hoarsely, "Probably an infection." The unobservant Ben didn't suspect a thing, just showing the pure joy of surviving a close call, and asked me to move my limbs. "Good thing that new nanotech bomb suit held up this time. Otherwise—" He didn't finish the sentence, but we both knew we had once again snatched a life back from the jaws of death. "It was a light shell, and I ducked behind a sandbag. I'm fine." Ben laughed through his tears. "You say that every time." Just then Maya rushed in. Seeing I was okay, she let out a long sigh of relief. "Thank God you're okay. You have no idea how worried I was." Ben scoffed, glaring at her sideways. "You were worried? Then why were you hovering over Evan the whole time and ignoring Leo? Anyone who didn't know better would think you were his girlfriend." Maya gave an unnatural smile. "You were here, weren't you? Besides, no one was with him, so I just looked after him a bit more. We're all colleagues." She then specifically asked me, "You understand, right?" I didn't answer, just said to Ben, "Go home and rest. I'm fine." Ben nodded and turned to leave. The hospital room fell quiet, thick with awkwardness. Maya wanted to say something more, but I had already closed my eyes, clearly unwilling to talk. Maya fell silent, feeling rebuffed. After resting in the hospital for 2 days, I, having no serious injuries, went home. I was leaving tomorrow and still had to pack. I packed only a few changes of clothes and some daily necessities. Nothing else. Then, I carefully took a file folder out of my pocket. After a long hesitation, I didn't open it. I mailed it, along with some old keepsakes, a bank card, and a greeting card. I then typed out a message. "You like him, don't you? I'm giving him and tomorrow's wedding to you as a gift." After sending the message, I blocked Evan, relieved I would never have to deal with that toxic drama queen again. At the thought, a flicker of pleasure rose in my numb heart. I took out all my documents, checking them one by one to ensure there would be no issues with my departure tomorrow. Finally, I turned off the light and went to bed. Although I wasn't seriously injured this time, My body hadn't fully recovered. I needed time to rest. With time, you can get over anything. Like my parents' deaths, and like my 7-year love for Maya. The next morning, after a call with the captain, I took a car to the airport. Maya's messages kept coming, but I didn't reply to a single one. There was nothing left to say. I believed she would like the breakup gift I had prepared for her. Maya stared anxiously at her phone. The feeling of unease that had started this morning was growing stronger. She was about to call me when her father stopped her. "He's so in love with you. Is he going to run away? Look at you, all worked up. At this hour you should be calling the relatives to see if they've arrived. And your colleagues and teammates. Honestly, you're a grown woman, and I, an old man, still have to worry about everything," Mr. Vance grumbled, not holding back in the slightest. At 2:00 p.m., the wedding banquet hall was already full. Maya waited on the stage, a smile on her face. As the MC repeatedly urged things along, the doors to the hall opened, and a groom in a black suit walked in to the music. But when the groom lifted his head, the smile on her face slowly froze. The groom wasn't me. It was Evan. The murmurs from the crowd suddenly grew louder. Her expression changed, and she rushed forward, grabbing Evan's hand tightly. "Why is it you? Where's Leo?" Evan was startled by the anger on her face. His eyes reddened as he struggled in pain. "I don't know. He told me to put on the tux I tried on and come here today." Before she could ask anything else, a man's voice came from the entrance of the hall. "Is there a Maya here? You have a package." Meanwhile, I had already blocked everyone associated with Maya from my contacts. Even the social media posts that held memories of our love, one by one, I deleted them all, until nothing was left. Just then my phone rang. I answered it, and Ben's voice came through. "Leo, isn't today your wedding? Why aren't you here?" "It's off. I'm done with her. I'm going on an overseas deployment. Take care." After a few more words, I hung up. I took one last deep look in the direction of the EOD unit, then dragged my luggage onto the plane. "Danak, here I come." When Maya took the package, a faint voice in her head told her not to open it. Her hand holding the package began to tremble inexplicably. Just then her father came up to her and said coldly, "Where is Leo?" "On a special day like today, he didn't go on a mission, did he?" Maya's brow twitched. She glanced over at the EOD team's table, and indeed, a few people were missing. This had happened before. She remembered one time on her birthday, I had also been half a day late because of an emergency mission. At that thought, the heart that had been in her throat slowly settled back down. Her father's eyes flickered, and he asked tentatively, "Since Leo isn't here, why don't we have Evan fill in? We can't keep all the guests waiting for the groom." Maya glanced around the room. Apart from her teammates who knew the groom, the other guests didn't know him anyway. She made a quick decision and nodded, shoving the small package into her pocket. Evan's eyes lit up, the joy and triumph practically spilling out. He immediately took Maya's hand and led her onto the stage. At this, the teammates who recognized the groom had been swapped looked at each other in confusion. "What's going on? Wasn't it supposed to be Leo? Why is it Evan now?" Their faces were filled with bewilderment. It was Ben who said listlessly, "Leo's done with her." Another person said, stunned, "Impossible, he's so in love with Maya. How could he miss the chance to marry her?" Ben scoffed disdainfully. "What's so great about a two-timing cheater like her? Evan might treat her like a treasure, but Leo doesn't want her. A vile woman and a vile man are a perfect match. Our Leo deserves better." He didn't say it quietly, and Maya, standing on the stage, heard him clearly. Her brow furrowed, and she stared intently at Ben, her voice tight. What do you mean? Where is Leo? Didn't he have an emergency mission? Ben sneered, looking at her with pity. What mission? He went to Danak. He, doesn't want you anymore. No matter who you marry, he's not coming back. Impossible. Maya's face turned pale, and she denied it repeatedly with red eyes. She couldn't believe the me who loved her so deeply would abandon her. At that moment, she completely forgot how many times she had given me up for someone else. Seeing her pitiful state, Ben kindly offered a suggestion. Why don't you go ask the captain? Without a second thought, Maya dialed the captain's number. A few minutes later, the hand holding the phone dropped limply to her side, her eyes filled with disbelief. Seeing this, her father snapped at her. I knew this guy was unreliable, and yet you treated him like a treasure. Don't say anything else. Just get through today's ceremony with Evan. With that, he pushed the dazed Maya onto the stage. Under the rote guidance of the MC, they went through all the motions. The guests that day found it very strange. Why did the bride look like she was at a funeral, while the groom was beaming with joy? The contrast of sorrow and joy created a very bizarre atmosphere. Even after the wedding ended, Maya, as if she had lost her mind, kept calling my number. But all she heard was the recorded message that the phone was off, over and over again. After dozens of calls, she finally believed it. I was gone. I had completely abandoned her. But why? After 7 years together, how could I just let go like that? Why was I so cruel? She asked herself these questions again and again. The phone in her hand fell to the floor with a thud. She leaned against her bedroom door and slowly slid to the floor. Tears streamed down her face, soaking into her shirt. Her gaze fell on her white wedding dress, and as if remembering something, she immediately pulled the small package from her pocket. She rummaged through her drawers and finally found a pair of scissors. Seeing the sender was me, she carefully opened the package as if it were a precious treasure. But when she saw the contents of the card and the medical report in the file, her mind went blank, as if a bomb had just exploded. In disbelief, she opened the report and read the few lines on the card over and over again for a good 10 minutes. The words on the loose paper were clear. Maya, I'm letting you and Evan be together. The money in the bank card is for what you've spent on me over the years. From now on, we're even. The woman's eyes were bloodshot, her fingertips trembling as she held the documents. Her sobs grew louder, laced with a heartbreaking despair. Maya cried as she pounded the floor with her fists, each blow like a strike to her own heart, a dull, aching pain. Her hands touched the cold floor, a chill spreading through her, but she seemed not to feel it, continuing to pound relentlessly. Suppressed, broken sobs came from the room. She was filled with regret. She wanted to admit she was wrong. But I was gone. From now on, they had nothing to do with each other. When the plane landed, I, having slept soundly the whole way, felt refreshed and energetic. Seeing the sun in Danak, I felt a sense of relief. After a deep exhale, it seemed as though the pent-up frustration in my heart had been swept away. Following the address and transferring between vehicles, I finally arrived at the base command center before dark. The leader didn't say much, just handed me over to a squadron leader. The man was in full camouflage, his face covered in grease paint, his true features hidden. Hello, I'm Leo. I've read your file. A very elite bomb disposal expert. Starting tomorrow, I'll be your security detail. We're a team. The man, Marcus, spoke decisively, showing me around the base as he talked. Because I was an experienced elite, the base gave me a single room. After leading me to my room, Marcus gave me a few more instructions, then let me be, telling me to get some rest. I nodded my thanks. We agreed on a meeting time for the next morning and said our goodbyes. Perhaps because I had slept enough on the plane, I couldn't fall asleep now that I was in bed. I mulled over what Marcus had said before he left. Starting tomorrow, we would form a bomb disposal team. I would disarm the bombs, and the other man would provide security, completing missions together. It was a completely different model from what I was used to back home, and I couldn't help but worry if I could adapt. But then I thought, since I was already here, I might as well make the best of it. With that, I pushed aside the distracting thoughts, forced myself to close my eyes, and soon fell into a deep sleep. While I was readjusting to life overseas, Maya, back at the EOD unit, was once again held back for poor training performance. The captain looked at the devastated woman before him and sighed. "If this continues, you might have to take off that EOD uniform." Maya froze, then quickly shook her head, pleading, "Captain, just give me one more chance. I'll get myself together and get back on track as soon as possible." The captain said nothing, just looked into Maya's pleading eyes. After a long moment, he replied, "Take a few days off and we'll see." He turned and left without waiting for her reply. Watching the captain's retreating back, Maya stood there stunned, a bitter smile creeping onto her lips. It turned out that without me, she couldn't do anything right. After I left, Maya felt like a part of her soul was missing, leaving an empty void inside. She couldn't eat or sleep properly, and she ignored her father when he tried to talk to her. Back at the EOD unit, even in the circuit training, she was usually best at. She made several mistakes in a row, not to mention the simulated bomb defusal exercises. Her teammates whispered snidely about her behind her back. To her face, they congratulated her, saying that even without me, she still had the rookie Evan, a match made in heaven. But in private, they cursed her for being greedy and too timing, for driving away the unit's best officer. Whenever she thought of me, it felt like a knife twisting in her heart, a relentless pain. She clutched her chest, walking dejectedly. Lately, all her bad luck seemed to have come at once. Not only had I abandoned her and gone abroad, but even her own father showed no sympathy, constantly pressuring her to get her marriage license with Evan. Ever since Evan had stepped in to play the groom at the wedding, he had been dropping hints to her father, both intentionally and unintentionally, that he was willing to marry her. Her father, already dissatisfied with me, saw this as a glimmer of hope and relentlessly tried to set them up. He invited Evan over for dinner every day. She was in a position where she couldn't refuse, but couldn't accept either. It had gotten even worse in the past few days. He had openly invited Evan to stay at their house, leading the entire unit to believe they were in an intimate relationship, and they started calling them the husband and wife team behind her back. Only now did she realize how wrong she had been, how she had crossed a line. She had to get back in shape quickly, apply to go to Danak, and explain everything to me face to face. She believed that if she could just make me understand, I would forgive her and come back with her. Maya thought this with conviction, her fists clenched, her heart filled with confident determination. Lost in thought, she brushed past Evan without noticing. He was used to Maya's attention, and being so coldly ignored was unbearable. He immediately pouted and grabbed her arm. "Maya, why have you been so cold to me lately? Leo is gone, but you still have me. He doesn't want you, but I do. Don't worry, I'll be very good to you." Evan whined just like he used to, his puppy dog eyes fixed on her, constantly shaking her arm. But the woman who had always given in to his every whim was uncharacteristically silent this time, and even subtly created some distance between them. "Evan, I'm going to find Leo soon. We should keep our distance. We're just senior and junior colleagues, teammates. It's not good to let people get the wrong idea." Evan froze at her words, his eyes instantly turning red. He asked in disbelief, "You're going to find him? Then what about me? We already had a ceremony. Besides, your dad really likes me and supports us being together." Maya's head throbbed at his words. She was about to explain further when her phone rang. Using the call as an excuse, she ran off, leaving Evan standing there with a look of pure hatred on his face. Unlike Maya's downward spiral, I adapted to the base quickly. In less than a month, Marcus and I had developed a strong rapport. A single glance was all we needed to understand each other. Today, after returning from a mission, I had a few minor scratches for a change. As soon as I got out of the vehicle, Marcus tossed me a tube of ointment. "Remember to put this on," he said teasingly. "Don't want you to scar that pretty face, or the higher-ups will have my head." I, now familiar with him, gave him a cool glance and took the ointment. "Thanks." Seeing my cold demeanor, Marcus couldn't help but feel curious. "Yesterday that young woman from the communications team confessed to you, and you turned her down. What gives?" I frowned slightly. I hadn't realized the outwardly stoic squadron leader was such a gossip in private. Marcus didn't know whether to advise me or not, and just left me with, "We're people who race against death. It wouldn't be a bad thing to have a real romance." With that, he whistled and walked away with a wave. Danak, a remnant of World War II, was known as a paradise for landmines, and that was no exaggeration. The situation here was even more severe than I had imagined. The base currently had 5 EOD teams on daily missions. In a continuous stream of operations, the bomb disposal experts from 2 of the teams had already been killed in action. And besides the underground mines, there were also bombs planted by terrorists in residential areas. Marcus had no choice but to request more personnel from home. After hanging up the phone, he suddenly turned around and looked at me with a wistful expression. "I hope the new guys are as good as you. That would make our lives a lot easier." Catching the joking tone in his voice, I offered a rare smile, a slight curve appearing on my lips. "Don't worry, the captain will hear your prayers." I had a cool and detached aura. I seemed cold, but I was actually warm-hearted. More than once, Marcus had seen me give food to the homeless people wandering outside the base, making sure they had enough to eat. Although some people at the base mocked me for my compassion, he believed a soldier needed a heart full of empathy. Time flew by. As the 2 of us continued their daily missions, the latest batch of EOD specialists from home had already boarded their plane. By the time we got out of the armored vehicle that evening, the new partners had already arrived at the base. I was taking off my gloves as I walked, when I suddenly heard an urgent cry, "Leo!" I froze and turned to see Maya standing not far behind me, her expression complicated as she stared at me. In that moment, I wanted to turn and pretend I didn't know her. But on second thought, we would be seeing each other all the time at the base. Making things too awkward wouldn't be good, and I didn't want to give people anything to gossip about. I didn't walk away, nor did I speak. I just gave her a cold glance. Maya's face lit up, and she hurried forward, wanting to grab me and say something. But as she got closer, she was overcome with a sense of panic, like a traveler returning home after a long time. While she hesitated, she saw me quickly step back, avoiding her as if she were the plague. The joy on her face instantly faded, and a mix of emotions churned inside her. She wanted to ask, "Why did you leave without a word? Why did you run away on our wedding day?" But in the end, her lips opened and closed, and all she could ask was, "Are you okay?" My lips twitched into a cold, faint curve. "Not dead." Seeing her silence, I started to walk away, but Maya grabbed me. Her face showed a rare look of desperation and a hint of unwillingness, her voice trembling slightly. "Leo, we need to talk." As if afraid I would break free, her grip tightened. Even when I frowned in pain, she didn't loosen her hold in the slightest. "We have nothing to talk about. Let go." My voice was cold, but my gaze was even colder, filled with undisguised hatred. Maya abruptly let go, as if burned, and stammered, "You hate me that much? You despise me? Leo, why have you changed?" Freed, I quickly took a step back. I looked up and sneered, my opinion of this woman's shamelessness hitting a new low. But I didn't want any more involvement with her. I just shot her a glare and said with a warning tone, "This is the last time. If you lay a hand on me again, don't blame me for not being polite." With that, I turned and left without a second glance. Maya was left standing there, looking lost. But Evan, who had been watching from the side for a while, took the opportunity to rush over and wrap his arms around her. "Maya, I told you so. He doesn't love you at all. He left so decisively. He probably found someone else a long time ago. Don't be a fool and keep thinking about him. We're the perfect match." Maya impatiently pushed him away, her tone earnest. "Evan, you shouldn't have come. The situation here is much more serious than you think. I advise you to go back. Before you're officially assigned, you still have time to return home." But Evan completely ignored her advice, even secretly resolving to use this opportunity to surpass me, to win his own honor and merit. The next day, when the new bomb disposal specialists were being assigned to teams, I was already out on a mission. Our objective today was to clear all the tripwire mines in the village of Moba. Last time, a tripwire here was accidentally triggered by an unsuspecting resident, resulting in several deaths and injuries. The leadership took this very seriously and personally assigned our team to complete the task. Time was tight, and the mission was critical. One person carried a mine detector while the other stood behind with a sniper rifle, guarding. We moved forward inch by inch, each step a battle between life and death. In less than half a day, we had cleared a large section of the minefield. Just then, another armored vehicle arrived, and more EOD teams got out. Maya and Evan, along with several other teams, were also assigned to this minefield. Ignoring everyone's warnings, Evan cheered as soon as he got out of the vehicle, shouting, "What a great view!" and bouncing around the minefield. Before Marcus could even yell at him, there was a muffled sound under Evan's foot as he triggered a remnant mine. The man was quick. He grabbed me and pulled me into an embrace, rolling several times. Maya tackled Evan, and they tumbled over and over, the other teams scattered like birds. Fortunately, it was just a remnant mine with little power. After the smoke cleared, everyone brushed themselves off and got up. The furious Marcus walked over and slapped Evan hard across the face, so hard that he staggered, half of his face swelling up instantly. "Who gave you the nerve to mess around in a minefield? Do you have a death wish? If you want to die, go back home. Don't drag others down with you." Marcus was like an enraged leopard, wishing he could slap the fool in front of him to death. Evan, terrified, stumbled back, clutching his swollen face and hiding behind Maya, not daring to make a sound. Maya wanted to say a few words in his defense, but when she saw the 3 stars on the other man's shoulder, she immediately shut her mouth. Marcus's eyes were bloodshot, his gaze as sharp as a blade. He spoke mercilessly in front of everyone. "This is a high-risk minefield, not a kindergarten. You could be killed at any moment. If you want to live, you'd better listen." Maya, taking it all in, had her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. But right now, she couldn't ask anything, couldn't say anything. The timing was wrong, the occasion was wrong. She could only suppress her frustration and begin clearing the mines. Unfortunately, she and Evan were assigned to the same team. The heavy sniper rifle was a bit too much for Evan to carry, so he was responsible for disarming. But as she watched the other teams pull far ahead of them, while Evan was still meticulously searching for mine wires like he was doing embroidery, Maya grew anxious. For the first time, she regretted being teamed up with him. Her gaze fell on me, at the very front. Seeing my swift and efficient movements, disarming a mine every few minutes, a hint of pride filled her eyes. The sun sank inch by inch, and soon it was dusk. The entire minefield was cleared. My team had done the majority of the work. Marcus walked up to Maya and gave her a dismissive glance, his eyes filled with contempt. Maya, already fuming, wanted to go argue with him, but the teammates behind her held her back. "Maya, you guys were really slow today." Maya knew their team's performance had been poor, but when her eyes fell on Evan's pitiful face, her anger flared even more. But she couldn't yell at him, so she just snorted and walked away. The jeers from the other teams followed. "Flirting on a mission? They deserve to be yelled at. That guy is a jinx. He doesn't know anything and still comes on an overseas mission. Such bad luck." For the first time, Maya ignored Evan, letting the other teams gossip behind her back. Back at the base, seeing me walking alone towards the dorms, Maya seized the opportunity and chased after me. "Leo, give me a few minutes. We need to talk." "Maya, are you deaf? We have nothing to talk about. We've already broken up. Do you have amnesia?" I didn't give her a pleasant look. My voice was laced with sarcasm, and my words were like knives, stabbing straight into Maya's heart. The woman's face instantly paled, whiter than snow. She paused, then relentlessly continued. "Leo, I know I was wrong. Just give me a chance, okay? Let's start over. Once we finish our deployment, we can go back home and get married. Or if you want to get married here, that's fine too. I'll listen to whatever you want, but you can't ignore me." Maya babbled frantically, her voice gradually tinged with tears, but to me, it was all incredibly grating. I narrowed my eyes and sneered. "Get married?" I asked, taking a step closer. Maya, who had been so sure of herself, now faltered under my cold gaze, backing away guiltily. "Didn't you already have a ceremony with Evan? And now you come to me, playing the victim. What gives you the right to say these things?" "Evan and I—" Before she could finish, a sharp slap silenced her. With a crack, she swayed, almost falling, but there was no satisfaction in my eyes. "Get out. I don't want to see you, and I don't want to hear anything about you. Don't pollute my ears." Maya was stunned. In the 7 years we had been together, we had never even had a real argument. But now, I had actually hit her, my eyes filled with a cold, distant look. She swallowed her pride and grabbed my sleeve, her eyes filled with a broken pain, her gaze dim. "I know I was wrong. I hurt you, I admit it. But you have to give me a chance to make it up to you. Leo, I'm begging you," Maya pleaded in a low voice, her hoarse tone even cracking into a sob. At her words, I turned and stared at her. My face was like frost. "Give up!" With that, I pulled out my dagger and, with a swoosh, decisively sliced off the piece of my sleeve she was holding. It missed her hand by less than an inch. I showed no pity. I didn't even look at her as I turned and walked away, leaving Maya to stand there heartbroken. The next day, Maya stormed into the office and demanded to switch team partners with Marcus. After hearing her request, the leader frowned impatiently. "On what grounds do you demand I switch with you? Give me a reason." Maya gritted her teeth and said, word by word, "We used to be on the same team. We've worked together for years and have good chemistry." The man laughed, as if he'd heard the funniest thing in the world, but the laughter didn't reach his eyes. Maya's already small amount of confidence was completely shattered by his laughter. After a long pause, she added, We're a couple. We've been together for 7 years. Our chemistry? You're here on an overseas mission, not to date. If you want to deal with personal drama, go back home. We don't take cowards here. Marcus cut her off before she could finish, his eyes like shards of ice staring her down. The next second, as if remembering something, he added, "Besides, he's already done with you. Have some self-respect. Stop clinging to him." With that, he strode away. Maya was furious, gritting her teeth. But this was Danak. She had no connections and could only swallow her anger and accept the situation. Unable to switch teams, she had to grit her teeth and continue working with Evan. She had to endure his snail's pace while also fending off his constant confessions of love. All of this became a joke to the other teams. Back home in our EOD unit, besides me, the team's top elite, she, Maya, was also considered a key member. But in Danak, because of Evan, Maya was constantly ridiculed and mocked by others. The proud woman couldn't take it anymore, and finally exploded after a mine-clearing mission one night. "Evan, if you can't handle it, just apply to go home. You're dragging me down with you. Because of you, our team is always last. You have no shame, but I do." Maya's face was flushed with anger. She even threw her equipment far away. The usually gentle woman's sudden outburst scared Evan into silence. He just stood there with red eyes, sobbing. "Maya, don't be mean to me. I'm scared. You always used to protect me." The other team members didn't intervene, just stood by and watched the show with amusement. Evan's eyes were red, and his voice choked with sobs, but inside, he was filled with hatred. Back home, Maya had been so attentive and caring. But as soon as they got to Danak, she changed. He was sure I was behind it, pulling strings in the background. "You just wait. Let's see how long you can act so high and mighty," he thought, gritting his teeth. Evan was determined to teach me a lesson, and soon, the opportunity arose. With many new team members arriving, the base leadership decided to hold a welcome banquet. The long dormant base was finally bustling with activity again. Several EOD teams sat together. The atmosphere at the banquet was lively, the initial awkwardness long gone. Evan's eyes darted around, and he decided to try his old trick again. He stood up with a glass of wine and toasted me. "Leo, thank you for looking out for me during this time. I've learned a lot. I toast to you. I'll drink it all. You can do as you please." With that, without waiting for my response, he downed the glass of wine and even turned the empty glass upside down. I didn't respond, remaining coolly detached. Evan spoke again. "Leo, so you really hate me that much? You won't even drink my toast?" As he spoke, his eyes reddened, as if someone had bullied him. This one sentence made the atmosphere at the table instantly tense. Everyone's eyes fell on me, waiting for my reaction. Marcus, at my side, narrowed his eyes, a slight smile playing on his lips. "His stomach is bad. I'll drink this for him." But before he could move, the next second Maya also picked up a glass of wine, her expression grim. "I'll drink for him." The two men stared at each other across the air, sparks seeming to fly between them. The others at the table exchanged glances, but dared not make a sound. A flash of jealousy crossed Evan's eyes, and his hands under the table were twisted red. The next second, I suddenly spoke to Evan. "You used that trick back home. Aren't you tired of it? I'm not drinking this. You're right. I do hate you. Just looking at you makes me sick." With that, the whole room fell silent into an awkward hush. But I didn't stop. I stood up and said apologetically to everyone, "Fellow teammates, I have a chronic stomach condition. My partner will take this drink for me tonight. I'll treat everyone to dinner another day." Without waiting for a signal, Marcus picked up the glass and drained it, adding with a playful jab, "Treating us to dinner? You have to include me. Don't think you can get out of the one you owe me." This playful banter swept away the heavy mood at the table, and everyone burst into laughter. I gave Marcus a grateful look, and we exchanged a knowing smile. Seeing all this, Maya's eyes stung, and she almost crushed the wine glass in her hand. He let another man drink for him. He smiled at another man. She poured glass after glass of wine into her mouth as if it were water. But tonight, the wine had lost its usual sweetness and tasted as bitter as medicine. The tightness in her chest almost suffocated her. Scene after scene from the past flashed before her eyes, and she couldn't help but think of that time she had pressured me to drink. She remembered my pale face then, and a sharp pain shot through her heart. Only now did she understand how deeply her past actions had hurt me. She sat across from me, lost in sorrow, while Evan, next to her, seethed with hatred. After the welcome banquet, the EOD team's work returned to normal. Maya desperately wanted to make amends and sought every opportunity to get close to me, but I gave her no chance at all. One day, the water heater in my dorm broke. The other male team members were out on a mission. Only Maya was in, writing a report. Seeing me with my clothes and wash basin, she guessed what had happened and stood up to call me over. "My dorm is also a single. You can wash up in my room." As she spoke, she pulled a key from her pocket and handed it to me. I didn't move. I didn't want to owe Maya any favors, but the sticky sweat all over me was unbearable. While I was hesitating, the door next to me opened, and Marcus walked out, shirtless and wearing camouflage pants. "Leo, come to my place. I've already set the water temperature for you." The man's tanned skin was covered in sweat, glistening, his 8-pack abs clearly visible. I silently averted my gaze, my heart suddenly racing. Maya's face darkened, and she frowned, displeased. "I said it first. Why is Captain Fan trying to steal this too?" Marcus smiled lazily, but his words were ice cold. "As his partner, it's my duty to protect his personal safety and prevent anyone with ulterior motives from getting close to him." "What do you mean by that?" Maya's eyes flashed with anger, as if she were about to start a fight. "Isn't my meaning obvious?" Marcus ignored her anger and even walked forward with a smile to take my wash basin. Whether it was intentional or not, I glanced at Maya and said, "Thanks, but no thanks. I'll go to the captain's place." Maya watched helplessly as I followed Marcus into his room. Even if she didn't want to admit it, it was clear that I no longer had any good feelings for her. The smile I once reserved for her was no longer mine alone. I gave it to others. Maya was no longer my only choice. At this thought, it felt as if countless ice picks were stabbing into her heart. It was cold and painful. She knew this man was slipping away from her, but she was powerless to stop it. Frustrated, she kicked the wall again, ignoring the bloodstains on her knuckles. She waited resentfully outside the door, pacing back and forth. After a long while, I opened the door and walked out. Just then, a surprised "huh" came from the side. Evan and the other teams, having completed their mission, stood there, staring strangely at the scene. Looking at me, my face flushed and my short hair dripping wet, Evan asked with malicious intent, "Leo, did you just take a shower in Captain Fan's dorm?" He was smiling with no apparent malice, but his question made the other team's expressions change several times, a truly spectacular sight. I, familiar with his tactics, didn't explain. I just nodded to the crowd and turned to leave. Instead, it was Maya who spoke up to explain that my shower was broken. The others exchanged glances but didn't say much. Evan, on the other hand, happily linked arms with Maya and asked excitedly, "Maya, have you finished your report? I still want to be on your team tomorrow." Maya impatiently pushed him away, her brow furrowed tightly, her face filled with displeasure. "Evan, I was wrong about you. I never thought you were the type to stir up trouble. No wonder my relationship with Leo got worse and worse after you joined the EOD unit. Stay away from me from now on." She gave Evan a deep look, her eyes filled with disgust. At this moment, she hated her own stupidity. Even though Evan desperately tried to explain as he followed her, she ignored him. After all this time in Danak, I finally got my first day off. Early in the morning, Marcus came to my dorm and asked me what my plans were for the day. I paused for a few seconds and shook my head helplessly. "This place is full of armed forces. It's better to just stay on base." Marcus raised an eyebrow, not surprised, and sighed. "I knew you were a homebody. It's rare that I have free time today, so I'll take you out for a walk." After breakfast, Marcus borrowed a jeep and drove me out. Seeing that we weren't heading towards the city, I asked quizzically, "Where are we going?" The man didn't answer, just laughed softly. The sound of his laughter was carried far by the wind. Like a dandelion seed, it landed in my heart, light and warm. After driving for a while, the car finally stopped in front of a house. Soon, 2 brown puppies came running out at the sound. As soon as they saw Marcus, they joyfully pounced on him. Even the usually calm me was a bit stunned by this scene. "Where did you get Shiba Inus?" Marcus's lips curved. He picked up one puppy and placed it in my arms, then picked up the other and slowly petted it. "Found them on a mission," he said. "Their mother was killed by a landmine. Dogs aren't allowed on base, so I have them fostered here." The puppy in my arms was very well behaved, gently licking my palm. The man's already soft heart melted completely. I picked up the puppy and began to play with it happily. Marcus took a few bags of food from the car and put some in front of the 2 puppies. Watching them eat with relish, a smile once again appeared on my face. Marcus, across from me, also smiled contentedly. After a long while, as if remembering something, I suddenly asked, "How did you know I like dogs?" Marcus didn't answer, a sudden glint of a smile in his dark eyes. "It's in your file. Loves dogs, fears cats." "The files for the EOD unit wouldn't be that detailed, would they?" I asked suspiciously. Seeing he couldn't hide it any longer, Marcus had to confess. "All right, I'll tell you. I asked your commander, and he told me." Seeing his frankness, I didn't know what to say. I could only rub the puppy's chubby body, but the turmoil in my heart didn't lessen at all. I knew Marcus was looking out for me. When I first arrived in Danak, my reserved personality and handsome looks had made many of the older soldiers dislike me and want to cause trouble for me. This kind of thing was common in the military, and the leaders often turned a blind eye. It was Marcus who had beaten them all up and then partnered with me for bomb disposal, which finally quieted them down. The atmosphere between us suddenly became a bit strange. Marcus looked up at the sky and smiled. "I'll bring you here again when I have the chance. It looks like it's going to rain soon. We should head back." At the mention of rain, my heart trembled, and I quickly got into the car. By the time we reached the base, the sky had already darkened, and distant thunder rumbled. Seeing me trembling, my legs weak, and my face pale, Marcus didn't hesitate. He bent down, swept me into his arms, and hurried towards the dorms. Unexpectedly, he saw Maya at the entrance. The moment she saw me being held so closely by another man, the fire in Maya's heart ignited. She lost all reason and rushed forward, punching the man. Marcus, caught off guard, took the hit squarely, and blood instantly seeped from the corner of his mouth, Enraged, I shoved Maya hard, demanding furiously, "Are you insane?" Unprepared, Maya staggered and fell to the ground. She turned her head and looked at the man before her in disbelief, the anger in her chest drowning out all reason. She spoke word by word, her voice hoarse like a wild animal's roar. "You pushed me for him?" Marcus's pupils constricted, but surprisingly, he didn't step forward. Instead, he stared intently at the trembling me. I lifted my face. My pale face was illuminated by my bright eyes, which now held a bone-chilling coldness. I glared at Maya, as if looking at a dead person, but I didn't say a word. Instead, I lunged forward and began to punch and kick Maya, each blow landing with a sickening thud. I kicked with all my might, as if venting my frustration. My eyes were red, and my pale face had turned an unnatural shade of crimson. Maya gritted her teeth and took the beating without fighting back, only a series of muffled groans escaping her lips. I only stopped when the woman was lying on the ground, unable to get up. I ignored her earlier questions, my voice filled with rage. "Stay away from me. You disgust me. If you spout any more nonsense, I don't mind making you bleed." The viciousness in my eyes made Maya's pupils shrink. She regretted her impulsive outburst, blurting out what was in her heart, but I showed no intention of explaining anything. She had thought that even if I didn't love her anymore, there was still hatred, which meant I still cared about her. But now, I only felt disgust for her. She lay on the ground, letting the heavy rain wash over her. Her trembling lips moved for a long time, repeatedly apologizing. "I'm sorry. I was just so angry. That's why—" I didn't respond. Just as I was about to turn away, my legs gave out, and I fell backward. Marcus caught me steadily from behind. Throughout this, he didn't intervene, only taking me back to his dorm after I had finished beating the woman. In that moment, Maya knew that she and I could never go back. She tilted her head back, closed her eyes, her lips trembling slightly. A closer look would reveal she was silently mouthing the name Leo. But no matter how many times she called, the man who had once loved her so deeply would never forgive her. Maya suddenly laughed, and as she laughed, tears streamed from the corners of her eyes, mixing with the pouring rain and falling into the dirt. Evan saw everything, his heart filled with anxiety, and he schemed to cause trouble for me. One day, the team members were on a break. Due to a shortage of supplies at the base, we had to go to the city for all our procurement, and several of us had to go armed. Security was lax in Danak, and street robberies and murders were common. Even with caution, we ran into some trouble in the street. A group of people saw we were all carrying guns and, mistaking us for some armed faction, suddenly opened fire. The pedestrians on the street screamed and scattered in chaos. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, followed by a cry of, "Watch out!" I was pulled into an embrace, followed by a woman's muffled groan. I looked up and saw that the person protecting me was Maya. My expression darkened. I glanced at the chaotic scene and, with a frown, helped the injured woman up and pushed her into the car. A few minutes later, when the police arrived, order was restored on the street. Once we were all in the car, Maya, who had been closing her eyes, suddenly opened them and asked Evan coldly, "Why did you shoot at Leo?" The moment she spoke, the previously chattering car fell silent. Evan's mouth fell open in shock. "Maya, what are you talking about? How could I do something like that? Don't make things up." "I saw everything. Don't try to deny it." Seeing the fierce look on her face, Evan said pitifully, "I didn't. I really didn't." A team member, seeing Evan's pained expression, also chimed in. Maya, could you have seen it wrong? He has no reason to, Maya blurted out. He does! But she couldn't bring herself to say the rest. Her gaze fell on me, and she softened her tone, speaking gently. Leo, you saw it with your own eyes, right? Tell the truth. I'll be your witness. Everyone's eyes turned to me. As they urged me on, I curled my lips into a faint smile and said lightly, Maya, what do you want me to say? Wasn't it because you two were fighting that Evan shot at me? The team members all knew that I never lied. So when I said this, the way they looked at the two of them changed completely. They all started advising them. No matter how much you two fight, don't play with other people's lives. Someone even asked Evan, did you get in through connections? Your character is too low. What are you going to do next time you two fight? Throw a landmine at us. You two should just apply to go back home. Being with you is like being with a ticking time bomb, more dangerous than a minefield. Evan panicked and instinctively defended himself. I didn't! But no one paid him any attention. They all talked at once, their words growing uglier. Evan's face turned red with anger, and he glared at me, wishing he could swallow me whole. Maya, however, had fallen unusually silent. She didn't defend herself, just stared at me. Only now did she truly understand what it felt like to be stabbed in the back. But she had no right to cry out in pain, because this was what she owed me. The wound on her arm was faintly bleeding. The hastily wrapped white bandage was already soaked with blood. The car drove for an unknown amount of time, and by the time we got back to the base, it was getting dark. Maya, having lost a lot of blood, was hoping to use this as a chance to get a few words alone with me, but I just gave her an impatient look and said coldly, even if you died in front of me, I wouldn't spare you a glance. Stop making trouble in the future. A bitter smile appeared on Maya's face. She never knew I could be so sharp-tongued. My words went straight for the heart, a trembling pain at its core. Yet she was powerless against me. I walked away without a shred of mercy, leaving only Evan to follow behind and support her, wanting to take her to the infirmary. But Maya's face was cold as she shouted, "Get away from me, you vicious man! I was wrong about you!" Her face was filled with loathing, her eyes looking at him as if he were a cockroach. Evan was both hurt and sad. But seeing the blood all over her, he could only swallow his anger and take her there. I, walking ahead, had a sarcastic smile on my lips. So Maya's affection was that cheap. Before, for Evan, she had given him all her care and kept all the hurt for herself. Now, everything had changed. When you love her, she treats you like dirt. When you don't love her, she cries and begs you to come back. In the past, 9 out of 10 items of clothing in her closet were bought by me. I was a man of few words, but I was genuinely good to Maya. I bought her t-shirts in the summer and jackets in the winter, covering everything from her underwear to her outerwear. I spent little on myself, with most of my salary going to her. Even when people joked that I was keeping a woman, I would just smile and not argue. But now, the object of her care had changed. She was afraid of the coldness and hatred in my eyes. It was more painful than being killed. Thinking of our sweet past and the current situation, her eyes reddened with tears again. Just then, her phone rang. She answered it, and it was her father's voice. "When are you coming back? You and Evan need to settle things, right? His family has been to our house several times. It's not right to keep dragging it on." Maya immediately retorted impatiently. "Dad, can you please stop adding to the chaos? I don't love him. I love Leo. That ceremony with Evan was just for show. It was fake. I can't possibly marry him." She patiently explained over the phone, completely unaware that Evan, eavesdropping outside the door, already had a twisted expression, his hands clenching the lunchbox so tightly his veins bulged. But right now, he couldn't confront Maya directly. A plan was quietly forming in his mind. The next day, reporters from the Danak National Channel came to the base for an interview. The entire team was scheduled to be interviewed one by one in the office, except for Maya in the infirmary and me on the training grounds. It was supposed to be a 15-minute interview for each person, but when it was Evan's turn, he took up half an hour. Fortunately, the team knew his antics and didn't make a big deal out of it. No one paid attention to this small interruption. But the next day, as I was heading to the training grounds, I was stopped by a female reporter. "Are you Leo?" The reporter's Mandarin was good, with almost no accent. I nodded. "Can I take a moment of your time for an interview?" "Sorry, I'm busy. I'm not doing any interviews." With that, I started to walk away, but froze when I heard her next words. "Aren't you tired of being caught between two soldiers?" The reporter's meaningful expression was like a whip cracking over me, but I had training to complete and no time to argue with her, so I could only leave in silence. Seeing my silence, the reporter became even more convinced that what she had heard was the whole truth, and a triumphant smile appeared on her lips. A few days later, Marcus's EOD team received a new mine-clearing mission. A hidden minefield had been discovered in the eastern region near the mountains. Several forest rangers had been killed in succession, and the higher-ups had ordered them to clear it urgently. The mission was urgent, and Maya, her wound just healed, was also drafted. But this time, the minefield was not on flat ground, but on a wet, soft mountainside. We had to not only clear the hidden mines, but also be wary of landslides. A dozen people spent 2 days in the wilderness, covered in mud, before we finally cleared all the hidden mines. Just as everyone was cheering, I frowned. Something's not right. Marcus counted and said grimly, "Is one missing?" I nodded. But when I was clearing the mines, the count was correct. How could one be missing? Could it have fallen back into the minefield? I thought quickly, already preparing to go back in. Marcus started to follow, but I stopped him. "The mountain could slide at any moment. I'm faster. I'll go alone." Marcus paused, then nodded. Right now, completing the mission was the top priority. Everything else had to wait. Just then, Evan uncharacteristically followed me. The others didn't even have time to stop him. The minutes ticked by. The sky darkened, looking like a storm was about to break. Seeing everyone waiting anxiously, Maya stood up abruptly to go search for them, but Marcus stopped her. Just then, Evan's weak crying came from behind him. He sobbed as he wiped his tears. "Leo, he fell down the mountain." Everyone gasped, their faces as pale as death. Behind that slope was a steep valley. A fall from there was certain death. On one side was a mountain on the verge of sliding, and on the other was me, who had fallen. Maya was the first to request permission. "I have to go save him." Without a word, Marcus struck her from behind, knocking her out. He then said to the others, "You guys head back to base and report to the higher-ups. I'm going in to find him." With that, he disappeared into the woods. The other teams didn't dare to delay and drove back to the base. The next morning, 2 trucks carrying a search and rescue team stopped at the entrance of the forest. A group of people began to search the mountain inch by inch. Meanwhile, back at the base, the female reporter was confronting the leadership with a hostile expression. "There is no need to rescue this male soldier. His conduct is disgraceful. He shouldn't be in the army at all and should be kicked out." The leader condemned her righteously. "Ms. Lena, you have published false information without any investigation. I will be reporting this to your superiors." He threw a newspaper on the ground. The headline screamed, "Disgraceful Conduct in EOD Team." It wasn't until dark that the search and rescue team returned to the base with me and Marcus. The first thing I did upon seeing the leader was to drag my injured leg and salute weakly. "The last hidden mine has been cleared. Mission complete." The leader looked at the disheveled man before him and nodded in relief, telling me to go and rest immediately. I didn't see the newspaper until that night. I was so angry I jumped out of bed, ready to confront the reporter. But on second thought, this was definitely Evan's doing. I was stunned for a moment, then felt a sense of resignation. The man had gone crazy. As if remembering something, I took off the microcamera from my collar and handed it to the team leader. "This incident was not an accident. If I hadn't fallen into that cave, I would probably be dead at the bottom of that cliff." The team leader took the camera, his face as black as ink, exuding a cold aura. Maya had been watching my every move from outside. Unfortunately, there was no turning back time. She gave me one last deep look and quietly left. The next day, the base filed a lawsuit against the national channel's female reporter, accusing her of slandering me and the entire EOD team's reputation and demanding a public apology. When the reporter saw the video from the camera, showing Evan trying to harm me in the minefield, she realized she had been nothing but a tool in his scheme. Filled with immediate regret, she not only clarified all the rumors in the newspaper, but also recorded an apology video and sent it to me, begging for my forgiveness. I only said one thing. The news is not about rumors or slander, but about the truth. Please be careful with your words. After this incident, Evan also received his sentence. By then, his eyes were bloodshot, and he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. "It's all his fault. If it weren't for him, why would Maya leave me? I was forced, he shouted as he angrily smashed things in his dorm, his hysterical state far from normal. The final verdict from the unit was to send him back to the country to serve his prison sentence. Disheartened, Maya also submitted her application to return home. Before she left, Maya wanted to say goodbye to me, but I declined. Dejected, Maya boarded the plane back home and returned to the EOD unit in disgrace. Her performance on this overseas mission had been mediocre. Upon her return, she received no commendations or promotions and became the laughingstock of the EOD unit. Her father even mocked her for losing both the man and the money. A year later, the heartbroken Maya died honorably in the line of duty. By then, I had earned my own distinguished Service Cross